If you want Colts talk all year long, you're in the right place.
Fires upfield into the end zone. It is caught. Jelani Woods, touchdown. He's going to fire upfield. It's broken up. Tipped and intercepted by the Colts.
This is the official Colts Podcast, giving you an updated look at what's new with the Horseshoes.
Colts have it. Interception. 2 seconds left, and the Colts are going to win.
In the Indiana Union Construction Industry radio studio, let's get the podcast started.
Hello again, everyone, and welcome to the Colts official podcast presented by our friends at Wynn Las Vegas. We are happy to be joined about Wynn Las Vegas on this show. Okay, Vegas, I'm starting with because what had happened last week, I got to be personal here, and I want to spread it out to you guys. I didn't go to Baltimore.
Right.
I had weather conditions that
you were grounded, and not in like the way that your mom did.
No,
not
the
the way Mama
flight,
Gorman did when you were 12.
After Farm Aid, we went out to Mr. Irsay had a little thing out there, and then the planes got shut down because of weather. We were going to go the next day. High winds had come up in the morning. Then it was shut down. So it was different for me, and I see you guys at every game, not this one. So, guys, obviously we know what happened. That's a feel-good win, and I bring up Wynn Las Vegas because Las Vegas said before they kicked off 8.5-point favorites.
Wow.
8.5-point favorites. And to do what the Colts did in Baltimore in the inclement weather as well. JJ, I'll start with you.
Hold on. I just have to explain myself because people who tuned in probably saw me like wiping away tears.
A little bit.
At the start on YouTube.
Go ahead.
That's because Jeffrey began this by saying the official Colts
Codpiece.
And then he turned it into Codpiece.
Codpiece.
Wait, also,
You
I
know,
want to go in
that's
a different.
Yeah.
I want to go in a different direction. I want to know how Farm Aid was because it looked
Oh,
awesome.
that was
I
fun.
mean, as bad as the weather conditions were on the East Coast, it was an absolutely impeccable Indiana weekend around here for an outdoor concert.
Perfect weather. Irsay Band was up there. They played. Margot Price was there. Nathaniel Rateliff, Neil Young, Willie Nelson, Bob Dylan with the surprise thing.
Wow.
It was really, you'll never see these people in this one place again, in my opinion. That's why I was watching Neil Young walk by me and see Willie in the background over there, and then watching Bob Dylan. I'm like, we won't see these cats around. I mean,
awesome.
Willie's 92 or something like that. Dylan's 80 something like that. Neil Young is up there. So it really was a special weekend, but it was packed, and Indiana loves their music, and they raised well over $1 million with the help of Jim Irsay for the second year in a row.
That's great.
Giving $1 million to the farmers. So there's your answer. It was awesome.
Awesome.
I don't know where it'll be next year, but if you ever have a chance to go to Farm Aid, do it quickly because they're getting up there, number one. But number two, it was just an incredible one, which I thought was going to dovetail right into getting on the plane, getting out of there, going to Baltimore and seeing this thing. But the weather came in. So I was a little bit iffy on this thing going in.
We held it down for you.
Yeah.
We held it down for
totally.
you out there.
But hats off to, everybody. I got to start with you guys because we were so excited doing backflips, watching this game on television. But there were so many key plays, key times that the things that happened. JJ, I'm going to start with you. What stood out after like one half of play saying, hey, we are going to dogfight right now with these guys, and we're slugging right back at them?
Here's the play that stuck out to me was Kyle Hamilton comes off the edge. He hits Gardner Minshew. Ball comes out. And the Ravens, Jeremiah Moon, their outside linebacker, gets his hands on the ball. The next thing that happens is Quentin Nelson comes screaming in there and knocks that ball back out. Michael Pittman sprints about 20 yards from where he was running his route to go get that ball. Gardner Minshew dives back in there. If the Ravens recover that ball, they could have got a touchdown on that play. They could have ran that thing back into the end zone.
Definitely points, but we just don't know.
Minimum, it's with 42 seconds to go in the first half. Minimum, they probably get a field goal. And all of a sudden, you're talking about a 10-10 game at halftime. Momentum shifts back to Baltimore going into the half. The effort the Colts gave on that play, when Shane Steichen talks about being relentless, that's the play right there. That play. The play that could have been the worst play of the game.
And it
for
wasn't.
The Colts.
Yeah, I mean,
and
total
it wasn't
turnaround.
good, but you know what? They made sure it wasn't a disaster. Quentin Nelson and Michael Pittman Jr. did their jobs on that play to fit what Shane Steichen wants out of his football team. That's what I thought about in the first half.
Overall, Larry, I got to ask you, we saw week one. What is going on with our running game? And no running it. Last 2 weeks, that's not the case. Obviously, hats off to Zach Moss. And there is a good problem that's brewing here somewhere in this organization with 28 coming off the PUP list soon after game 4. And we're have Zach Moss that's running like an offensive player of the month.
Oh, Zach Moss is an absolute beast out there, the tenacity that he runs with is just incredible. There's one particular highlight. I mean, you could go to many of them. The guy had 30 carries in a game, so plenty of highlights that you could point to, including a receiving touchdown, when that's not exactly what you think about Zach Moss being a pass-catching back, right? But there's one particular play that if you ISO on, it tells you absolutely everything about the ferocity that Zach Moss plays with. And he gets tackled, wrapped up. Well, I shouldn't say gets tackled. He gets touched and wrapped up by Jadeveon Clowney.
Big man.
Pretty good defensive player right there. Flings him off and goes for a massive gain beyond that. There were so many times in that game where lesser backs would have been dead to rights, TFLs or tackles at the line of scrimmage that Zach Moss powers through for gains. And it is it mirrors a little bit of, that relentlessness that you were talking about with Pitt and Q that you saw in that particular play. That is infused into Zach Moss. And I think that resonates with every person across the offense when you watch a guy just dragging bodies with him like that. Flip side, thinking about single plays, early on, when all the momentum was swinging the way of the Baltimore Ravens and Juju Brents, in his first regular season career NFL game, gets a forced fumble recovery. I believe Rodney Thomas II was in there as well in support. That completely flipped momentum in the Colts' favor. The Ravens could have easily gone up double digits had that turnover not occurred. So that's another point that I am going to stick to as being pivotal. There were a lot of them. I mean, I don't know, think pivotal has to be kind of isolated, but with as many major moments and all of the ebbs and flows of that game, I think there were a few critical key moments in there, and I would consider Juju to be absolutely one of those.
What a difference, huh?
There are so many of those that you just kind of get lost because of the way the game ended. But another one I thought about, and I wrote about this on Colts.com, Lamar Jackson finally broke contain early in the third quarter. The Colts rush got a little bit too far upfield, and he was able to get off and scramble. And it was on 2nd and 12. Zaire Franklin tackles Lamar Jackson 1 yard short of the sticks. Like, he doesn't give Lamar an extra inch on that tackle. And then the next play, it's 3rd and 1. Baltimore brings in 6 offensive linemen. E.J. Speed comes right through the B gap, drops Gus Edwards for a 2-yard loss. Baltimore has to punt. A first down there. Ravens get some momentum going. That's their second first down of the drive. Maybe it turns out to be a different situation in this game, but Zaire Franklin and E.J. Speed, those two plays that they made back-to-back, again, those are going to get lost in the course of a game where the defense is on the field 72 plays.
All right.
But we shouldn't lose sight of the game that those guys played.
What Zaire Franklin's doing, Larry, I'm sorry to interrupt, is record-breaking. He's on pace to set an NFL record, which brings me to physical toughness with this football team is a direct result of the new hire in Shane Steichen. I'm saying if there are other teams around the league that are getting ready to play the Colts, those offensive and defensive coordinators are going to say, hey, they're going to punch you in the mouth. Like, this is the team that's going to punch you in the mouth.
We're trying to find out. Coordinators too, because
Absolutely.
Did you see all of the chess match that was happening that was going on?
Smirk over to the other side of the field from Steichen.
It was classic, and they're trying to figure out, are they really going for it? Are we calling their bluff? Are we going to take a timeout? How would we do it? Are they going, delay a game? Like all of these type of things. And so you're putting a seed of doubt in everyone's heads with the way that you are strategically approaching these games.
We'll come in on Mondays for the last couple of years, and JJ, I go by JJ's desk, and he'll usually throw a name out at me, like I think last year was last week, Zaire Franklin, huh? Yeah. Just kind of lays that stuff out there. This week, which is yesterday, you go, Shane Steichen, pretty good.
Yeah.
Pretty good. So tell me, what I mean, we're talking about what we're liking with this guy, and he's new. I mean, this is 3 games into his career, but look, you're not alone. Everybody's going, hey, love what Steichen's doing.
So the Colts hired Shane Steichen, and Chris Ballard said this in his press conference. We didn't hire Shane just because of the offensive stuff. We didn't hire him just to develop a quarterback. The Colts hired him. Yeah, that's a good part of his resume, certainly. The Colts hired him because of the culture he would establish here. The stuff he does schematically with developing Anthony Richardson, with getting Gardner Minshew in there and having him play at a high level when he tags in, that's kind of icing on the cake. The thing that separated Shane Steichen in this process was, here's what I want this building to look like. Here's what I want this team to look like. Here's how I'm going to do it. And I talk about the effort, that relentless effort that the Colts are embodying on both sides of the ball. This team is going to be one of the most physical teams every team on the schedule plays this year. Whenever the Colts you come to Lucas Oil Stadium or you face this team at home, you're in for a 60-minute, maybe 70-minute just brawl. Because this team plays so physical and they don't let up. And that starts with, to me, Shane Steichen.
Yeah.
Instilling that in this team, that toughness, that attitude of we are not, if we lose a game, it's not going to be because we weren't the toughest team on the field.
And props to him for this. And Larry, we talked off season a lot of stuff. Hey, this scenario. Hey, will Richardson be ready week 1? Hey, was he coming in week 4? Is it going to be the Minshew's year? And then he sits back kind of like what happened with Mahomes in Kansas City. We talked about, hey, Gardner Minshew's coming in. This isn't a guy that's going to do mop-up duty. This guy that can win games, lo and behold, goes out and does what he does, basically with 2 wins on his record right now. For Gardner Minshew, I'm saying, and we have Anthony Richardson, that is the most electric player in the NFL right now when he is on the field. But I just want to take a minute for Gardner. We've been applauding him all offseason through the OTAs, and now it's showtime, and he's delivering, as usual.
Gardner is better than a lot of starters in the league right now.
He's the talk of the trade, everybody. Everybody's going, well, go get Minshew, go get Jets, et cetera,
I'm sure. And you can't give enough. You know what I mean? I don't think there's anything that would entice you to do that because he has proven his value here. And not only because of the results on the field, but also because you see when he has stepped into a game, there is zero panic within the offense. There is immense trust across the offense when Gardner Minshew steps in because of, certainly they've had time together and all of that, going back to the spring, and we've talked about training camp, all of that. But it also is just because how smart, how savvy, how invested, how great of a pro, how great of a teammate Gardner Minshew is. And he is so wholly authentic. I love that, people talk about, the Uncle Rico, kind of comparisons and, all of kind of his eccentricities and different things about him. But dude's a baller. Dude is a football player. He loves ball, and that's what teammates love about him, in addition to the fact that he's a great teammate, a consummate teammate who celebrates everybody else, never puts attention on himself, never seeks the praise or anything like that, yet earns it because of his dogged work ethic and how he takes care of the football and how that man takes hits like he did off of Kyle Hamilton coming through just absolutely unblocked and just pops right back up and goes right back into fight. I mean, he's incredible, and he does embody a lot of how you want this team to play. But Gardner Minshew is a flat-out dang good quarterback.
Hey, the bucket, he threw it in the bucket to Moss on the touchdown. An incredible play. So on top of being a great leader and everything, kid's a gamer.
I mean, even, you think about all those shots he took during the game.
Oh.
To hit that throw to Pittman, where
the epitome of toughness on the football field was in one play encapsulated there by 11.
Yeah. And by the way, Zach Moss on that throw to Pittman.
Great block.
Great block on Patrick
Great
Queen.
block.
That play does not work without Zach Moss picking up Patrick Queen, who blitzed on, I'm pretty sure, every single play in the game. That play right there, that's another one where you're looking at effort, relentlessness, the character. Even, hey, I'm just going to get this ball to Pittman downfield. And that play didn't result in the Colts scoring points, but it flipped the field and it gave the Colts momentum. And
go ahead. Yeah.
But like in overtime, when things were kind of getting to a slog, no one was really moving the ball a whole lot. That play right there, that sparked something. Momentum's
one thing, Larra, but when his teammates are watching that and his helmet's ripped off and he's like, wait a minute, was I touched or not? I can still run. I mean, that's what his mentality was after he caught that football. I'm saying momentum, yes, but when his teammates are seeing that, they're getting fired up, banging on the wall saying, let's go. If that kid's playing that way, we're going to follow suit.
When you hear Zaire Franklin on the sideline yelling, Pitt, you're the tone setter. Pitt, you're the tone setter. He's calling out to basically empower Michael Pittman to exactly set the tone, establish what this team was going to be in that overtime period in all three phases, right? So you may have heard that there was a team meeting in which everyone was given kind of a role, a nickname, across the team, every single person. And Pitts is tone setter / enforcer because of his ability to do exactly what you saw on Sunday. And he has taken that to heart. And you saw that so perfectly illustrated with that play last Sunday. And it truly did set the tone. That's exactly what he did. When you see the great throw by Gardner and then Pitts in double coverage. And we have a director's cut coming this week that you guys will absolutely want to see, because we go absolutely second by second of that play, how it unfolded, the reaction and everything. Michael Pittman could not see the ball coming in because he had a hand and his helmet covering his face and then another defender coming at him. That was a play by feel. Knowing where the ball was coming in from Gardner and being able to, as much as he could, anticipate exactly the ball placement, then to come down with it, double clasp, roll over, and hold on to it when you had both of those guys just absolutely, just shooting into you like missiles. It was then everybody. I mean, I told Matt Taylor and Rick Venturi on the radio broadcast, every single defensive guy, if they weren't already standing and watching, they were up off the bench. All of those guys on defense were ready to go back right out. They wanted that opportunity. All right, we don't care if you guys aren't going to convert here. No worries. We've got your back, because when you see your top wideout take a shot like that, come up with it, and make a play like that, you're absolutely going to do everything that you have to do to be sure your offense gets another chance to win that game.
Think about the season Pitt's having so far. Throw the stats out for just a second. But what he showed yak ability on the touchdown against Jacksonville, where he reached a top speed of, I think it was like 19 miles an hour. And after the game, I asked him, was it nice to show the NFL again? You can do that. And he goes, yeah, for some reason, people think I'm slow. And he's probably that's probably because my friends have been talking too much smack. So I was like, well, it's definitely Desmond Patman's fault then that
right.
People think you're slow. And he was like, yeah, it's definitely Dez's fault. So he did that. Against Houston, the block that he threw on AR's second touchdown, where he had to hit that crackback block, and he just nailed it. Just physicality right there.
That's him. I mean, tone setter right there. But I'm going to stay in that.
But real quick, then the fumble recovery with Gardner, and then that catch.
Right.
When you talk about Pitt being the enforcer and the tone center, those 4 plays right there.
We know what Alec Pierce is. I mean, we know what Alex Pierce has got. We understand. I mean, we're waiting. I mean, I'm not saying anything we haven't talked about. This guy is a talented guy and had a couple of big catches, I believe 3 against the Ravens that were all big. But Josh Downs, the rookie, it's
a different element.
In that wide receiver room, just like you're saying, now a different element. That's 8 catches. That's one of those weeks that he's saying, hey, I'm here. I'm in the NFL, and I'm going to be a problem for a while. I mean, that's what I got out of watching number 1 do his thing.
Yeah, absolutely love that added element that he brings. And he allows you to bring a bit of different creativity into the mix, right? That allows Shane Steichen and Jim Bob Cooter to utilize him in different ways within the offense. And, the fact that he is a rookie is one of those things where when you're scheming against this offense, maybe you don't exactly know how they're going to utilize him or the various assets that he does contribute. But yeah, it doesn't matter whether it's Anthony Richardson or it's Gardner Minshew in there. Josh Downs is going to be a top target week in and week out.
Couple of false starts on the offensive line that we a couple of those, but we're talking a lot about these toughness and big-time players like Josh Downs, and I want you, and I'm throwing it on a table on a platter for you. Ryan Kelly out. Danny Pinner out. Wesley French in.
Yeah.
Against the Baltimore Ravens on the road. That tough defense. Tip of the hat to the youngster.
Wet conditions.
Yeah.
I mean, look at the bad snaps you saw from Lamar Jackson and the Ravens.
Yeah.
Look, they had a couple of different issues there on ball security and snaps that caused them in critical situations.
I mean, the Ravens, the Colts ran 84 offensive plays. I'm pretty sure the Ravens blitzed on 83 of them.
Right.
And a lot of that's on the center. That's on the center and the quarterback to get the protection right. Sometimes it wasn't right where Kyle Hamilton came in and he was unblocked. But when you face as many blitzes as the Colts did, for it just to not be a disaster back there, how many times in 2022 did we see free runners through the A gap or the B gap or off the edge coming at Matt Ryan? And you can't operate like that if you're not consistently picking it up. And the Colts, for the most part, picked up those blitzes. They got it right. Bernard Ryman, by the way.
Yes, again.
I said it at the start of the season. He was my pick for breakout player on this podcast. And I'm not going to pat myself on the back yet. We're 3 weeks in.
Oh, of course you are.
Yeah, but that's kind of what I'm doing. Okay, you got me. What a season he's having so far.
What? You want to know why? Because we haven't talked about him.
Exactly.
You know what I mean? Nothing.
Yep.
Hey, good. He played well. Yeah, he played not much pressure on the edge. That's what we want out of our guy.
You know who also looks like himself is Quentin Nelson.
Mm-hmm.
Quentin Nelson is destroying people out there. He is, when he climbs to the second level, my goodness. Fun to watch that.
Bro,
again.
I'm telling you, that size doing what he did, like we talked about the impactful play when he dove and caused the loop. I mean, that's incredible coming from a 330-pound guy like that. That I tell you what, you're right. He is mauling people this year. Maybe not so much last year, but things were different. There was a lot of different stuff going on, and now the Shane Steichen offense just clicking.
This was just real quick. A question that I wanted to answer this year were the Colts' offensive issues in 2022, was that because they didn't have the right personnel? Was that because the players weren't good enough? I think what we're seeing early on in this season is that the players are good enough.
Right.
Last year, more of, we're trending toward it being kind of more of an anomaly on offense, and that this team has really good players on offense. Pittman, Q, guys like that who can set the tone, be leaders on this team. The talent seems to be plenty good.
Takes a year or two, they say, for a lot of these position players in the NFL, like to go from, like Polian used to say, the edge rusher will always take a huge step from year one to year two. Well, when you talk about coordinators, Larra, the same thing can go. Gus Bradley, that's where I'm trying to get to on this. With a couple years and things getting, more and more normal. Hey, I've been here for some games. I realize how it is. The players are buying in right now. So I want to talk about Gus Bradley a little bit and what he did against Baltimore. But like we talked about, I don't even know if we were rolling. Wow, Juju Brents, like, where you been, brother? Like, this is a different guy that idolizes the great Bob Sanders from Iowa and had some moments out there in his first NFL action. Like, oof, I love tipping the hat to these guys like this, but I'm taking my hat off for that performance.
Well, I think, too, you saw Gus be more aggressive than what we were used to seeing him in that Baltimore game.
I got a stat for that. I got a stat for
Bring
that.
it.
Gus Bradley, the Colts blitzed 21 times in Week 3, according to Pro Football Focus. That is the most times a team coordinated or coached by Gus Bradley has blitzed since 2010, Week 10 of the 2010 season. Wow. When he was the Seattle Seahawks defensive coordinator.
And here's what I think that a bit of this is an indication of how strong the rapport and how much that Gus and Shane kind of lean into one another. Because obviously these guys have history. They coached the Chargers together. They overlapped there. And then Shane had the decision to make. He could have retained Gus or, went and sought a new defensive coordinator. He thinks so highly of Gus, retains him, and allows another year with this defense to have their defensive coordinator, knowing how much they would grow. And one of the things I asked Shane early on, it's still early in the season, but this was, I think maybe week 1, how much of an advantage or asset it is to have a defensive coordinator who knows the demands of the head coach role too.
Yes.
And he just spoke about his, admiration, respect of Gus, and also how that does allow them, to game plan together and to communicate and those different things. Because going from a coordinator to a head coach, there are a lot of, different demands that are on you. And I think that this is such an indication of how well they play into one another and, looking at each other's philosophies on things and breaking down film and being collaborative in that entire process. I absolutely love it. We have heard time and time and again this defense talk about how much faster and how much more confident they're playing. And I thought that was on display really the last 2 weeks with these 2 wins in particular. Really quickly, I want to follow up, though. You guys talked about the offensive line. Wesley French is one of my favorite stories on this roster. All of our videographers who cover our community events will tell you this as well. I talked to Wesley French last week, just off camera. I said, hey, excited for you to get a chance. And he goes, never take this for granted. It was never a given that I would make it here. And I just, that hits you. He has fought and clawed and earned every single opportunity. Guy spent 7 years in college because of the COVID year and redshirt years and all of that. Comes from a small town in Michigan, went to Western Michigan and undrafted free agent. I mean, he's unbelievable. And not just in terms of what he is. I mean, every day in training camp, he was probably the last guy to leave the field, putting in extra work, getting extra reps in, asking guys to stay late with him. And then also, community is a huge aspect of this team. I don't know that Kimberly's behind the camera right now. Kimberly, is there shake your head yes or no, any single community event we have been to that Wesley French has not been to? No. Every single week, this man shows up at elementary schools and he's showing up for veterans. And it's not just like showing up and being there. He was packing boxes at the food pantry and he was, helping kids get their school uniforms. And he was building these boxes or building these flags with veterans who had lost family members in combat. Like, he is all around just like one of the most exceptional human beings. And for him to get his first start in the NFL, I was elated. And then for him to have that type of performance, dude, so incredible. He's just awesome. Everyone, take a little bit more time to dig into Wesley French's story because you will not regret it. And that is a guy who you're going to want to cheer for because he deserves every opportunity he's getting.
When NFL teams are in disarray, it's tough to have accountability. You know what I mean? It really is. We went through that last year and years before that, even before JJ was here and stuff like that. But showing up and doing the right things is, I'm not saying Wesley French is a direct and what he does on his Tuesday community days and stuff, but this is Shane Steichen. And this is putting an accountability bubble over that locker room that, dare I say, wasn't there last year. And we're seeing it early on right now with his leadership.
I mean, think about this. The Colts already have benched and or cut 2 week 1 starters. Darrell Baker Jr. was a healthy scratch. It doesn't mean the Colts have completely lost faith in him or anything. They wanted to give Juju Brents a chance, but accountability, right? And Deion Jackson was a week 1 starting running back. He's no longer on the team.
Yeah, what would week 1 have looked like if you had Zach Moss?
Yeah.
I mean, I don't want to hindsight.
Right.
But think about that.
Okay, so if you aren't hitting the standard that we expect out of our players, there is accountability there. That it's not just, let's keep it going. Let's try. It's like, nope, we are going to find someone who can hit that standard. And it starts with Shane Steichen. Shane's the first to admit when there's a play call that doesn't go right, that he didn't, he needed to call something different, that he should have coached it better. It starts with him. And when you have that top-down accountability, it really, I was asking Zach Moss about this yesterday, and he said just it raises everyone else up. That, hey, okay, our head coach is taking accountability for this stuff. And he's holding us accountable in the same way he's holding himself accountable. That just, early in the season, that means so much.
I also think he leans into the supporting cast. And I say supporting cast not to diminish that, but I just mean a lot of the attention, bad and good, goes on the head coach. Every opportunity that Shane has, he's giving praise. If people ask about the offensive line, he's giving praise to Tony Sperano. Or, you're asking about special teams. He's talking about Brian Mason, or you're talking about the linebackers. He's talking about Richard Smith and Cato. Whenever it is, he makes sure to acknowledge the work that those guys are doing. And then I also think that when you are game planning, he's doing a great job of leaning into those guys and, making sure that they are taking in different angles and different perspectives and all of these different things. And then empowering each of those leaders of the position group and each of those other coordinators with how they lead and how they coach and how they prepare their guys. So I think he has struck a really effective balance of being like, okay, these are the things that I'm going to shoulder and these are responsibilities I'm going to take on, but then also making sure that the people who he has such great confidence in have that same level of confidence and responsibility and conviction that they feel strong in the addition that they are bringing and the role that they are playing within this.
Just think about the Gus Bradley stuff for a second, where I just brought up that stat about how many times the Colts blitzed. If you are not blitzing properly against Lamar Jackson, it's going to be a long day. For Gus Bradley,
even if you blitz properly, it can be a long day because it's Lamar Jackson.
Right.
Yeah.
But to send 21 blitzes against Lamar Jackson and to come away with a win in which the Ravens scored 19 points, 17 on offense.
I love it. Yeah.
That is a testament to the coaching of Gus Bradley. And to get back to the year 2 thing, Gus Bradley knows exactly what his players can do. There's no more feeling it out. There is now, you got a year of tape. And Gus said this last week, that he's now showing these guys tape of what they did last year. He's not having to, hey, we want to run this concept. We want to run this coverage, this defensive line stunt. Here's what I've done in the past. Here's what it should look like. Now, here's what it should look like, and it's guys wearing horseshoes on their helmet.
I'm throwing a curveball real quick because you and I already had this conversation, but I want to throw this out to Jeffrey Gorman. So we're talking about the defense, right? Second leading tackler in Baltimore was Julian Blackmon, okay? Offensively and on special teams, collectively, every single point scored, all 22 points. Was 22?
22.
Right, what? Why does that feel like? I had to double check. All 22 points scored were scored by products of the University of Utah.
Isn't that something?
Matt Gay, Zach Moss, and then your second leading tackler was Julian Blackmon.
I read that on the internet.
And by the way,
I know.
By the way, that was great pull. I'm glad you pulled that off. The Brian Windhorst. You were really pushing that yesterday.
I was.
What's happening in Utah?
Windy. Yeah,
we're gonna clip that one for social media.
But really incredible. I mean, that's like winning the lottery. Think about it. You have these players who are instrumental in this state that will go to this state professionally and do different things, and they're accounting for all the. I understand what you're saying. It's like lottery numbers.
It's not University of Alabama or Ohio State or something. It's Utah, which has had historically good programs. I mean, that's just wild.
What's a Ute?
Yeah. A Ute?
Yeah.
I don't know. What's a Hoosier?
Well,
it's probably the same thing.
Right?
Same thing. Hey, I'm from Indiana. I'm a Hoosier. I'm from Utah. I'm a Ute.
Yeah.
Okay, good. Okay, we gush a lot. I'm going to throw two names. I want to gush quickly, though, because this is what this podcast does.
I feel like I've gotten my gush. I feel like I gushed over Wes.
Oh, I'm going to give you a French. Right. So, yeah, okay.
All right. You gush. Quiddy Pay, EJ Speed.
Ugh.
Just kind of gush a little bit because we're going to gush every week on this podcast and say, hey, we're doing well. But the way this schedule is set up, I'm so excited because there's a lot of winnable games on here, but we got great play from Quiddy Pay. We got great play again from EJ Speed, what it is. And then I'm going to flip it a little bit. We're going to gush for a minute on those two, and then I'm going to throw you guys a curveball. Okay. Quiddy and EJ.
All right, so Quiddy has 3 sacks this year, the sack in every game. And Quiddy he's playing with such confidence. He entered the season. I talked to him after week 1, and he told me like his mentality was just I put in way too much work for the product to not be good on the field. And he came into the season with a ton of confidence, and we're seeing it. The rushes he's having and how he's playing off, especially of Samson Ebukam, who has hit some awesome speed rushes off the edge. Goodness. The way that they're playing off each other is really fun. And then obviously Buck and Grove in the middle. We all know that. We all know what they can do. This is the makings of a really good year for Quiddy. And I think Quiddy always had it in him. But last year he said his confidence kind of waned a little bit. He got hurt. If he stays healthy and he keeps playing at this level, it's going to be a really good year for Quiddy. And then EJ, every time this dude's on the field, he's making a big play.
That was on Zay Flowers, wasn't it? I mean,
the coverage, yeah. And by the way, people being like, I should have been pass interference.
No.
The officials kept their flags in their pocket in that game. They were consistent throughout the game, keeping their flags in their pockets.
If that's a flag, that's a hand on his waist then. We're not throwing that.
Also, on Quiddy real quick, because you guys know I love the feature stories. This is something I mentioned in the radio broadcast. Remember how much attention there was in Foxborough last year because it was Quiddy's mom's first game where she was able to see him play because she made the quick trip from Rhode Island over. Row 1, behind the Colts bench, Mama Agnes in her 51 jersey, along with like 8 members of the Pay family.
Good seats, Quiddy.
Quiddy showed out for Mama.
Nice.
Anytime Mama's in the house, Quiddy has a big day. So we need to talk to the boss. Get Mama to some.
Get her a house here.
Yeah,
what are you kidding?
Get us some more games.
Buy her a house. I mean, if the thing is working like that. So I talked about the gushing. We saw the EJ Speed. We saw what Quiddy does. I'm going to flip it. I'm going to go stir. I'm going to go first. I'm not coming down on this football team. I'm not second guessing this football team. I don't know how to call offensive plays, anything like that. But as a fan, I'm going to say this, and I'm going to throw it to you guys. Who's our tight end? And is that a problem or is it not a problem? Because we have talent there. Injuries coming into play like this, obviously it's a huge thing. But in this Shane Steichen offense, and it's going to be cooking with Richardson, even if we had a couple or 3 of them all that were part of this offensive scheme, it's like I want one of those guys. And we thought we were going to have it with Woods. We thought maybe Ogletree's like to bust out. Is it Will Mallory that it's at? Or are we okay shifting with this many tight ends going in and out?
Look, you would obviously like to have that guy. You know, the guy who can play the Y tight end, the inline guy who can block and who can catch, who's at the top of the league. but there are maybe 5 or 6 of those dudes. You think Dallas Goedert, T.J. Hawkinson, George Kittle.
Now, what's his name in Kansas City's pretty
Travis,
good. Yeah, he's
Taylor Swift's
Swift's
boyfriend. That was for you, Larra. When Travis Kelce and Taylor Swift eventually break up, which they will, the song, she's going to have to do Kelsey Dagger, right?
No, it'd be something like Lose Chiefs Lose or something, right?
Is the dagger?
Like Chelsea Dagger, but Kelsey Dagger.
What's Chelsea Dagger?
It's a song.
That's a Swiftie song. That's a Taylor Swift song.
Okay, I just totally lost.
Yeah,
everyone listening
this
to
side.
this podcast.
I'm sorry,
Okay.
You did lose Larry and I, but will you sing a few bars of the song so we know what you're talking about?
Just go watch any Chicago Blackhawks highlights from the 2010s, and you'll hear
I'd rather listen to him sing. What about you?
No, I'm good.
Yeah.
All right, I drove this thing off the tracks, and I'm going to try to steer it back on before you make me sing.
Bring us back.
There are just so few of those true Y tight ends who can play 80-90% of the snaps in the league. So if you don't have that guy, I think what the Colts have is a collection of guys who can you're fine with it. Absolutely.
I also think it's a little too early to be asking that because you have had to somewhat tailor your tight end play based on 2 different quarterbacks to this period, right? I mean, of course, the playbook is the same with Coach Steichen, but you're going to use different aspects of it with Anthony Richardson versus Gardner Minshew. So I think when you get into a stretch, I mean, you had Anthony play a full game and a quarter, and then you had Gardner play 3 quarters in one game. I think that you have to utilize tight ends differently based on how you're scheming with those 2 different guys. So I think when you get into a stretch here of hopefully having Anthony Richardson for consecutive games in a row, that creates a better opportunity to establish who that dominant guy is going to be. I mean, does that make sense?
Yeah, and we'll also...
It's just too small sample size, I think, right now.
The other factor is we'll see when Jelani Woods gets healthy.
Sure, obviously. All right, wrapping this thing up, the Rams are waiting. I know you guys are getting all your paperwork going and notes on this football team here in Indianapolis, but you got to keep an eye on the Rams. Here's why I think the Colts are...
short week.
Yeah, here's where I'm thinking.
Plus going West Coast to East Coast,
That's
it's 10 a.m.
Back.
They got to kick off at 10 a.m.
I actually was kind of like half wondering, they just take the 2-hour bus ride up from Cincinnati and stay here? I don't think they are.
That's a good point. We can find that out if the Rams, or they went back to the West Coast, because just like you said, short week, this thing's going to be on them in a minute.
I can pull it up on FlightAware because I was tracking the Steelers plane that broke down.
Oh, okay, nice. Yeah, and I'm glad everybody's safe on that plane, by the way. But Larra, that's what I was going with. Physical demanding travel, and I know that's a charter and everything like that, but these cats they're not ready to play at 10 a.m. every week when, you know what I'm saying, or at their time, 10 a.m. with the 1 o'clock kickoff. Sometimes it comes into play, sometimes it doesn't. But this travel, Cincinnati, back to L.A., L.A. to Indianapolis, everything. I like us against the Rams. I know it's Sean McVay, and I know you're going to bust some stats on me from the Rams, but I do like us again. And this team is rolling with the Shane Steichen era here, and it's going to fall into place. Another game that's falling, all favors are on us right now, and the line is basically even in Vegas.
Watching the Rams on Monday night, I caught that game. And I'm watching them, I'm like, this offense looks really good. And then I looked up and they had 9 points late in the game, which was sort of surprising. Like, I think they're probably better than what they showed yesterday. Lou Anarumo, the Cincinnati defensive coordinator, is really good at what he does.
One of the best, yeah.
They couldn't block Trey Hendrickson in that game. Matthew Stafford, though, looks like he's back. Like, he's got the arm strength again.
Hall of Famer?
Oh.
He's got one. He's got one ring. Hall of Famer?
Potentially.
Yeah, I think he is.
Stop me dead in my tracks.
Sorry, JJ.
Hold on.
Sorry, JJ, but I love those questions.
I can see an argument for sure.
Matthew Stafford's only been a Pro Bowler one time. Right?
This guy's in so many bad teams in Detroit.
I know, in Detroit. But he still slung it, though. I mean, he still had huge numbers and stuff.
But he was also in an era of really great quarterback play, too.
Right.
I mean, that's the other thing that I feel like it skews against when you look at the other guys who were getting voted in to the Pro Bowl. I mean, it's just a tough time, I think. So
he's a great quarterback. I'll just leave it at that.
We'll leave it at that. All right.
I know what I was going to tell you. So I had Matt Gay this week for Colts 360.
Yeah, you did. Give him some love. I mean, anytime you do this, I'm sorry to interrupt.
He's so cool.
The first time in NFL history happens in 2023. The first time something happens in NFL history, and it's our guy. Please explain.
Well, yes, exactly. First kicker in NFL history to have 4 field goals beyond 50 yards in a single game. That includes one that was a game winner and 5 field goals in total. And that is also, like, we always talk so much about, even though quarterbacks don't go head-to-head, we love to talk about quarterback battles, right? Like, it isn't real. You're not facing another quarterback, but that's always a storyline. As much so this week as there should have been on Justin Tucker versus Matt Gay. I mean, in that game, right?
I have a note. I have a note on this.
Give me it.
So Justin Tucker lines up the 61-yard field goal that would have won the game. As soon as the ball left his foot, the scoreboard changed in Baltimore.
Really? They put the 3 up.
Automatic? Like, they're like, oh, that's...
And with good cause, by the way.
Because it was short.
Well, you just assume that kick's going in.
Yeah,
Well, and
absolutely.
it was on target.
Yeah.
I was in Matt Taylor's ear saying it's short. I mean, I could just see where it started to drop off. You know, basically the apex and the physics and all of that.
Guys, again, I wasn't there. I'm watching this thing on TV. I thought he gutted it. I thought it's a Tucker. He's got a boomer of a leg, and all of a sudden they were like short. I'm like, you got to be kidding me. Don't forget the kick he made earlier, and he did one of these.
That was cool.
Do you guys remember that when he did one of those?
Yeah.
Kind of the thing. I said when we were watching it, I hope that comes back to burn you. Bam! I had an impact in that
broke
win.
your readers.
Sorry, I had an impact in that win by putting the Shazam on Justin Tucker. So that's
you did a great job. Sorry, great job from Carmel on Sunday.
That's it. That's right. While eating Shapiro's, actually, it was what was on the menu there for that watch party. So a lot of fun. Okay, these two are on another podcast on Thursday.
Oh, what I was going to say, though, is one thing on Matt Gay. I asked him how eager he was to get back to the friendly confines of Lucas Oil Stadium after having the conditions in Baltimore, which he said actually weren't too terrible, but still, you know, it's wet. It was almost this constant kind of mist the whole time. Matt Gay has requested that the roof be closed on Sunday.
I bet he does. How about that?
I don't know if you know a guy.
Nudge. Yeah, you guys going to write an email to her, say, hello, sir, just heard through the grapevine.
Yeah, absolutely. I'll write an email.
Believe me. If Steichen's got wind of it, I know his Steichen and Irsay talk has always been tradition. He always talks to the head coach the morning of the game just to find out what they want with it. And obviously every coach that's been here in the past, other than Chuck Pagano, I think, has wanted the roof closed for the elements not to be affected and stuff like that. So that'll be a fun one to see. But I just want to say, we gush on this podcast a lot about a victory. We talk about a loss, unlike that. But you guys are going to get us ready for the Rams on Thursday.
No, it'll be Casey and Bill and Maytay.
That'll be Casey, Bill, and Maytay
and
also
Juju Brents.
I'm sorry.
Juju Brents will be on the pod.
Juju Brents. Okay, well, I butchered who's hosting it and everything. But my point is this. The people with the most information between their ears in this building as far as the Colts go and reporting on them are these two right here.
Say, as far as reporting on them
and JJ Stankevitz. So I'm just saying.
Not true otherwise.
No, but I'm saying, like, you guys are in the know, so I like to gush with you guys about this. We've got other podcasts calling up. But more importantly, go to Colts.com for your latest stuff. And always, at Larra Overton on Twitter, formerly known as X. On Twitter, X, formerly known as Twitter. Whatever. You know what I get. Yeah. Find the X and go on it. At JJ Stankevitz. Appreciate what you guys do for us on the field and everything like that. So I'm glad we could gush about this victory. I like what's happening here. I like the foundation that's being set. I like the accountability that we've talked about and the big plays and finding out that Indianapolis is, that Michael Pittman play where he came that miraculous catch was number 2 on the highlights on SportsCenter that night. So when you see stuff like that and you talk about toughness, we're seeing it right in front of our eyes. So thanks for, having an afternoon on the couch. I'm sorry I didn't bring any food in, but we're going to do it next week. But again, always catch Larra and JJ's latest on Colts.com. And as far as the social media goes, you guys are on it. You've got the latest information. So thanks for sitting between me. Next week, I promise you, charcuterie boards, and we're going to have hopefully a live singer again. I told you guys we were going to have a live singer last time, but I couldn't pull it off.
Oh.
I had farm aid. I had farm aid.
We
bring Willie Nelson out here.
Couldn't bring. Go ahead. Will you take us out with your favorite Willie song, JJ?
No.
I'm trying to get him to sing on this show. It just isn't working.
Yeah.
At JJ Stankevitz, at Larra Overton, I'm at Hey Gorman. Appreciate the time. Thanks for sitting with us on the couch. Great start to a year, but I'm saying, let's look at that roster. When you're at work at your office and you're like, win. I was doing that yesterday. I was like, come on, these are winnable games. Let's go. So more information.
I'm just glad to have a couple at home.
That's
too.
it.
Just an opportunity.
4 to the next 5. Hey, this is a big stretch.
This is a big stretch right now. Looking forward to that one for sure.
We will protect this house, I think is what they once said. Hey, find out more on Colts.com. Thanks so much for watching in on YouTube. Again, we are brought to you with the Colts official podcast by our friends at Wynn Las Vegas. For JJ and for Larra, I'm Jeffrey Gorman. We'll see you next week, and hopefully we'll be talking about a 3-1 Colts team at that time. I think we will.
I like it. I like your optimism.
Let's go.